Hello, my friend. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jaden, and this is PathTune, where we are charting a course towards the shores of your highest potential. Let me read something to you. If you found yourself on this video, I trust there's a reason, and there is a message in this video for you. So, come along on the journey as we explore this path of self-discovery. See, this channel PathTune is ultimately about how to evolve your vibrational frequency over time to match the frequency of your highest and best life path. Now, we do have the power to change where we end up, and you can experience a better future simply by changing yourself, by tuning in to your highest potential. This channel is all about sharing the information, ideas, and perspectives that will help you create your own personal symphony of health, wealth, love, and happiness, fulfillment, and freedom with the unique ratios of what's important to you. So if that sparks your interest, please consider subscribing and coming along on the path as we explore this path of self-discovery with the intention of using the valuable information and ideas we learn to better ourselves and our lives in some way. Yeah. I need to shorten that because there's more, but I'm not going to read it. You get the idea, right? This one is going to be a little shorter. Maybe. We will see. I'm going to let it flow as I do. But before we get into it, I will tell you the topic. The topic of this video is about the intuitive mind. A little bit about the left brain versus the right brain. There's a whole plethora of videos we can make on that, but that's something that came to my awareness specifically this past weekend. Heard a few things about it, and then I came across a quote that was just really good. So I'm going to share that quote. We're going to dive into the concept a little bit. It'll be an introduction to it, but maybe there's some things in here that you haven't necessarily heard before or considered. And then you can use these ideas to apply to your life, your mind, your being, and make it a better ride for you. Make it a more productive conversation. Take the gold, take the golden nuggets, apply them to your life. Then you get better. Then you can navigate the path with more ease that is leading to your better future. All right, before we get into that, we're going to clear the space, settle in with a little bit of frequency. You'll notice this is a new bowl. It's a different bowl. It's not necessarily new. I've had it, but I've yet to show it. I got this in Hawaii. All right, ready? Take a breath as we do this. It's a good one. I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that. All right. So, let's start it off with a quote, shall we? This is a good one, and I might break this down, see what my mind has to say about it. Albert Einstein. Know him? No, Albert Einstein. I will read it to you. How about that? Okay. So, quote by this genius, a person who is able to access his own inner creative genius, which we all have. He says, or he said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. We will not solve the problems of the world from the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. More than anything else, this new century demands new thinking. We must change our materially based analysis of the world around us to include broader, more multi-dimensional perspectives. Wow. I didn't even read that full quote. I knew the top of it. And I saw that this was a longer version. I had not even read the rest of that. Should I read it one more time? Yeah. Okay. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift. And the rational mind, and in the last video we were talking about the mind versus the heart, right? And there's so many different ways of looking at this, and that's what we're doing on this channel. It's a multi-dimensional approach, looking at things from multiple different angles so that you can develop a balanced perspective. And that is a winning perspective, my friend. Let's go again. It's just this duality, these two different ends of the spectrum. And if we can balance them and merge them and synergize, then you become so powerful. And it starts in the mind. It starts in your perspective and how you see things. So that's why I love sharing ideas and information. Let's go again. So the intuitive mind, also known and strongly connected with the right side of your brain. Right brain, left brain, right? Right brain intuition, left brain logic and analysis. Heart intuition, mind analysis. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. We will not solve the problems of the world from the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. More than anything else, this new century demands new thinking. We must change our materially based analysis of the world around us to include broader, more multi-dimensional perspectives. Amen and hallelujah. It's a great thought, man. It was really good. It's really good. Because when you connect to the intuitive mind, it transcends logic. It transcends the box and the confinements that the logical left brain thinking mind can conceive. And we all have access to this inner creativeness. Everyone has the ability to be creative. We are creators and we are creative beings. But in this society, it's just been geared, largely since the Industrial Revolution, it's been geared and structured in a way that has infiltrated the culture and I'm talking more about Western society, but and the education systems, where we train the children to become analytical workers, left brain dominant. We trust the facts. We trust the data. And don't get me wrong, I love facts and data. But if you're operating only on that side, or primarily on that side, mostly, you're leaving a bunch of gold on the table, basically. And if you connect back to cultures of history's past, of past civilizations, before modern science was developed, they had their own version of science, and it was infused with this magic almost. Like science and magic were kind of the same thing. And yeah, they had some things that were not necessarily accurate. They had some beliefs that maybe were not accurate. But they also had a connection, and they navigated through their cultures by using our inner capacity of knowing and tapping into the field. And that's what the priests and the sages and the oracles and a lot of the women were guides, and they would bring them on a hunt or on a voyage. Those people that were more connected to their intuition and were more tapped in, because they knew that there was valuable guidance through that. All of creation and all of existence is constantly communicating to us. And if you can become aligned enough and receptive enough to tune into it, then you can be guided. You can be guided by a force that is greater than your logical mind, the rational mind, as Einstein said. The rational mind is a tool. It is one of your greatest assets. But we are multidimensional beings, and that mind of yours that is so hung up on the details and figuring things out and the structure and the data and the learning, and I love learning, but all the information, we have so much information flooded into our minds on a daily basis, especially if you're like me, where you're consuming ideas all day long. Well, not as much anymore, but like if you're looking at social media, it's just like idea after idea after idea. It's like, oh yeah, this is all good stuff. But it can become overwhelming to your mind, because your mind is not built to be only that unidimensional, to always be working in the one dimension of the rational mind, of the rational analytics. But that's what society has been trending towards for the last 50 to 100 years, at least. That's what we place value on. And I do believe that there is a shift taking place, and you've probably noticed it too, as more spiritual. The whole thing of spirituality is like on the rise. And what does that really mean? It means that people are opting out of structures and systems that they were placed into as a child, and they are looking to find their own path. So they call themselves spiritual. But that doesn't mean that spirituality is like a woo-woo, new age, there's a word I'm looking for, but it's not coming to mind. You know what I'm saying, though. Spirituality is just the word for we're finding our own paths and discovering who we are, who we really are, instead of somebody else telling us. And everybody, that looks different to every person. That's why there's no written book on it. And even religious people are involved in spirituality. Even people who subscribe to a religion, they just have a more structured form of expressing their spirituality. But you can create a structured form yourself by studying by studying history, by studying all the different spiritual religions of the past. How has everyone done it? And that's really what I started to do, is like take a look at everything, but like be open to see what all of humanity has done and all the different perspectives that are out there. But we are spiritual beings, and that is something that I firmly believe at this point. In previous times in my life, I was not as sure. I wasn't, and that's the thing. It's like, you never know for sure until you experience certain things that give you that information and that knowing within yourself. In the last video, I said, to really know something, you must experience it. Otherwise, believing is something that you're not sure of, but you choose to believe it, and that's all. That's good. That's having faith. That's all right, and that can actually create a positive force in your life. And we don't. There's what's that other thing? In my own words, if we say, for instance, life after death, like what happens when you die, right? If you knew for sure what happens, then wouldn't it take some of the mystery away from this experience? And wouldn't that affect your behavior in some ways? How? Well, I'm just going to get this to be active again because it went to sleep. It went sleepy. If we knew that there was life after death, then we might not value this life as much. We might take it for granted. We might be... It goes both ways, right? We might just be like, well, screw it. I don't care. I'm just going on to the next part. Or we might... Because it depends on how you understand it, and how you conceptualize, or how you, understand it. Because if you also know that your actions in this life affect the next life, then you might live this life a little differently. But putting that aside, because we don't know, because it really could just all be over at the end of this life. If you really take a long, hard look at that perspective and you're honest with yourself, you get this gift of existence. You get this opportunity to experience what it's like to be a human in this beautiful world, which has so much to offer and so many lessons and so many experiences to offer you. A much more visceral, hands-on experience than you would just experience as your, spiritual, energetic, dimensional, extra-dimensional consciousness. You get the opportunity to feel what it's like to touch, all the senses, all the to smell, to hear. You got all of these senses from your body to be able to experience this life. And if you don't know when it's up, that might make you start to change the way you operate. And a lot of this change takes place when somebody has a near-death experience. And there's a common trait with that, because if you look into near-death experiences, if you look into that, you'll see some recurring experiences, or some correlations. But sorry, I'm just getting this set up. At the end, because we don't know for sure, then it makes it more fun. It makes it more mysterious, and it makes you, if you're really honest with yourself about that, we do have a limited life, because you'll only be you once. Even if there is life after this life, even if there is another level, you only get to be you as you are now once. And I think we get so distracted from contemplating those type of concepts or meditating on those ideas because we got shit to do. We got to get up and go to work. We have to survive. We have priorities. Got to go to the grocery store. And we're lucky to have a grocery store, right? It's all perspective. But there's many things we've made life very complicated. But those near-death experiences wake people up. And they realize how short this life really is in comparison, or putting it into perspective of how quick this life really does go by. And so then that makes them change the way that they live their life. If you knew that it was going to be over in a month or a year from now, what would you do differently? Because we don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know when that turning point is going to be. It's a surprise. But we get distracted with our priorities and obligations and just the life. And I get it. We get caught up in it. We don't have time to think about this. I got shit to do. I know. But the value of contemplating it and running this through your mind once in a while is that it can give you a perspective change, which then can lead to modified behaviors, increased motivation towards certain things, which will then lead you in change directions, so that maybe the path that you were going on, maybe a bit more unconsciously, becomes more of a conscious choice, and you change directions a little bit. And all you need to do is change directions just a few degrees, and you go down that way for a certain amount of time, and you end up a much different place. But you just had to make a slight little shift. If these two paths, they start out pretty much the same, but then they start to diverge the further they go out. So the small changes you make matter. And if you make small changes and you work at it on the daily, whenever you can bring yourself back to the awareness of, oh yeah, I have things I want to work on, or I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to change something, and I'm going to do something about it. And then you work on one thing at a time, and you take one step at a time in a little bit of a different direction. That builds momentum, it changes direction, you keep going, you end up in a much different place than you would have over here. But when you take an honest look at the fact that you do only get to be you once, and this life does go by pretty quick, and if you knew it was going to be over in a year, how would you live your life differently? If you knew that you were going to die, I don't like saying the word die, that's why we say pass or transition, whatever. Because and don't let me tell you, right? Because this is the whole, we all don't know. And that's kind of the point of what I'm saying. But if you knew that it was going to all end tomorrow or in 24 hours, you'd probably come to some reality checks with yourself about what you really care about, what you really wanted to experience in this life. So say it's in a year, how can you make this the best year of your life? And those people that experience those near-death experience, they have such a radical change in their behavior because they experienced that, and it gave them that wake-up call, and they took their power back from the system that has been programmed into their mind, thoughts, and behaviors. And they said, no, I choose to live my life my way, the way I want to do it, because I know that I can, and I can do things differently. And I will let go of fear because I've already been on death's doorstep, and I know what it's like. So I'm no longer afraid of the opinions of sheep. And that is a liberating experience. And I've had a near-death experience. But funny enough, it didn't happen like a huge wake-up call for me. But something did change ever since I had that experience. And it's different for everyone, right? Like some people the next day or after they recover, they're like, I'm changing my life. It wasn't like that for me. But I always noticed that there was something different. Like an old part of me died, actually. And I was always kind of different from that point. And then it's just evolved onto where I am now. And I think it was all meant to happen. But here's an idea for you. One idea is that you have your life here. Here's me and my stick figures. That's you, actually. Right? And this is different timelines. So if we take the perspective of different timelines, and there's you walking down the timeline. Something happens, you go out, you fall over, and you're going to sleepy. But your true essence of your multidimensional energetic field, your spirit, your soul, which is the real you. What if you made an agreement and you came here for a reason? And what if it wasn't your time? What if that accident that happened in timeline 1, 2, 3, and I believe that there's an infinite amount of different timelines and possibilities. But what if this scenario with your life ending on this timeline wasn't the one that you actually picked, and this was just kind of the random accident that happened? Well, there's a belief, or there's an idea that if that may be the case, and you still had more to do, and you didn't complete your mission yet, then you may, while you're unconscious, you may actually shift into another timeline where you live and you make it out, and the doctors say it's a miracle, which is what they did for me. The doctor said it was a miracle. And the perspective or the idea is that you actually did die in that old timeline. In that other timeline, that you is dead. But you chose to hop over onto this timeline where of the infinite possibilities of all the millions or billions and billions and billions of different possibilities and permutations of all the different scenarios that what could happen. You hopped onto one of where you didn't die because you weren't ready to go. It wasn't your time. That's just one way to look at it. It's kind of a fun thing to think about, huh? I like that. I really do think something like that probably happened. But at the end of the day, we don't know, right? We don't know. So if you don't know something for sure with the numbers and the data and the with the rational mind, if you don't know for sure, then our society has conditioned us to discount those ideas without the hard, tangible, physical proof. And I understand why, because the data and the science has gotten us far. It has created great leaps for medicine and just the well-being of many people. But it always goes back to balance, right? Because if we only live in one-dimensional space and not a broader, more multi-dimensional perspective, then we're leaving gold on the table, as I mentioned before. So the aim that makes sense to me is to use the key to life, balance, which seems to be the answer for literally everything, to apply it to our perspective and the way we think about the world, the way we live our lives. And how can I know I have these different sides of myself. I know that there's multiple different dimensions of who I am. How can I start to incorporate more of that into my life, into the way I express myself, into the way I live my life and interact with the world and think about things and perceive my reality? And when you start working on that endeavor, whatever you change within begins to reflect in your experience of reality. So when you start to collect these ideas, you start to apply them, you start to apply them to your own life and your own mind. When you collect an idea, how does this apply to me? When have I done that? How do I do that? Do I do that? Or do I not do that? And you do that, go through the process of self-reflection. It's one of the most valuable things you can do, because then you start to experience the process of metacognition and thinking about your thinking. And that, in that space, is when you can actually make a change, because you need to be aware of something before you can actually change it. And so much of our lives is operated on a repetitive, unconscious basis where our habits determine, oh, that's another great idea. I'll write this one down and then we'll wrap this up. Your habits determine your timeline. And doesn't that really make a lot of sense? Because what was that Aristotle quote? Is that we are what we repeatedly do. So excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. And so your habits are essential to changing where you end up. And that's why I really like that idea here, because your habits make sense to me. Your habits really do determine which timeline you end up on. Do you end up rich or do you end up poor? Do you end up healthy or do you end up sick and dis-ease? How long do you live? What's your longevity like? All of these things are related to your day-to-day actions, your day-to-day thoughts, and your day-to-day actions and behaviors. Good stuff. Good stuff. So let me know what you guys think of these concepts. I do really like to just kind of flow with it as we've been doing. So let me know what you think of the video, of these ideas. I really would appreciate your feedback with this. And I know if you're watching this when the channel has just started, we're in the beginning stages. So I really do, I ask for your subscription. I ask for you to like the comments, do the comments, like the video. Do whatever you can to support the channel, please. I would really appreciate it, because if we can grow this channel, we can get this information out, we can then create communities, collaborations, great things are going to happen. And then if you found value in this video, I encourage you to share it with someone who might also find some value. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. It was my pleasure to serve you today, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.